Richard Steele. Our guest today is Helen Bent, Head of Ministerial Training at the Royal School of Church Music, who has long experience of writing music and liturgy, mainly in church settings. She's the author of the Grove book, Exploring Worship in Pilgrimage. Grove Bite presenter Steve Morris talked to her about her new book, where the worship was in a very different setting. And he discovered that it grew out of her personal experience of walking the St Cuthbert's Way, which starts in the Scottish borders and ends on Lindisfarne, Holy Island. And like all the best journeys, it had a deeper effect on her and her friends than they'd expected. And that started before they'd even taken their first step.
Because we set off on the St Cuthbert's Way as a walk with friends, 3 vicars and a friend from New Zealand. And we stopped off at Durham Cathedral on our way up to Melrose to start the walk off, and visited Cuthbert's tomb and Cuthbert's chapel there. And we spent some time praying there as we set off. And I think that actually set the tone for the rest of the walk. And then I think the thing that really nailed it for me was actually walking across the sand to Holy Island. And we walked in a howling gale with driving rain. And I think for me, I felt like a real pilgrim. If I'd been in shorts and t-shirt and it's been gloriously sunny, I don't think it would have the same impact. Yeah. And then we finished the day in the church on Lindisfarne for Evensong. And so almost by chance, the whole walk became an act of worship, an act of pilgrimage that we just hadn't expected. And it was punctuated by theological conversation and prayer.
I think that's just absolutely fascinating, kind of the kind of unexpected pilgrimage. And I suppose I think that's a really important thing for us, to be kind of aware that when we're on an ordinary walk, maybe just over the shops, maybe walking over the park, that in itself can become a place of pilgrimage and worship. So I think that was really fascinating. I wonder if that's something that you would like to, spread to other folk, really, so they could do the same thing.
Well, I think there's something really interesting. I mean, the book initially was inspired by the year of pilgrimage in 2020 that had been initiated by the cathedrals, because there just happened to be a lot of big anniversaries in 2020. And of course, that has all been hijacked by COVID. And yet we have been journeying in a different way through the whole COVID process. And I think pilgrimage also has always been a metaphor for the Christian life and Christian experience. And so I think there are also insights in that area that have something to say for where we are now, and this sort of tension between journey and place, particularly when we've been dislocated from our normal place of worship. Having to find our way in a new way, that is all part of life's pilgrimage and life's journey. And so I think we've been making new discoveries.
I wonder just finally whether you might just reflect or encourage us, as we go ahead. We're told that the light at the end of the tunnel may just about be visible. I mean, how do you see the kind of world of pilgrimage over the next 12 months?
That's a really big question, isn't it? I suppose for me, there's something really important in pilgrimage about story, and something about local story, and then the bigger story, God's story, and how those things interlink. And I suppose one of the things I was trying to tease out in the book was the biblical journeys and the biblical styles of worship, what had happened during history, and how different pilgrimages in different periods have shaped people's lives. And they are all tied up with that local story, that contextual story in that particular period of history, but also the bigger Christian story of God's incarnation and God's action within the world. And so I guess as we journey into and through 2021, We're also going to be missionally exploring that journey from the exile of COVID back into our churches. How do we invite those new occasional worshippers who's joined us online back into worship in church? How do we transform those places into places of worship and pilgrimage, rather than just historical buildings to visit as places of interest?
And that's absolutely, yeah, just so interesting. I really, really enjoyed reading your book. I hope other people will pick it up and read it too. Thank you so much for your time, and can I wish you a very, very happy Christmas?
And the same to you, Steve.
Helen's book looks not only at ancient and contemporary understandings of pilgrimage, but also includes examples of prayer, other liturgy, hymns, and other sources to help make pilgrimage an experience of worship. Go to Grove Books, where you can order Exploring Worship in Pilgrimage as a print copy with free postage or as a PDF. There are many more great Grove books applying the Bible to a wide variety of situations in the church and the world, and they're written by authors who know what they're talking about. Grove Books are bite-sized publications that you can really get your teeth into. Goodbye for now. Hope to see you again soon.